All right, good morning, everyone. This is Vishnu from the University of Maryland, and we have Jane from the MAT office. We have Ayushman from Hable. And today on January 8th, 2024, today is our last session for the TTT series. And as we wrap this up, just had a quick announcement. We will have all the videos of the sessions from October up till now. Some have already been posted, but whichever ones are remaining, they will get posted by Friday, by the end of this week. We will be also sending out a certificate request form in the email, which Jane will be sending to everyone. So if you are looking to receive a paper copy certificate, or a e-certificate, depending what your needs are, or if you want a Braille copy of the certificate to be requested, please fill out the certificate forms. Please make sure you type your name as you would like to appear on the certificate, and we'll make sure to have that sent to you by February. The deadline for submitting certificate request is January end, and this information will come in the email to you. If anyone has any issues accessing it or have questions, I will be here towards the end, or you can reach us at a later event. I did want to mention, Jane, I do have a hard cut at 10. So if you wanted to stay longer for question answers to wrap the series up, but I'll have to sign off at 10. And now, without further delay, let's just go ahead and get started with Ayushman, who is joining us from the Netherlands with the Hable unit, and we welcome him for graciously offering his time for the second session with the Hable unit. Over to you, Ayushman.
Thanks, Vishnu. Before I begin, is it okay if we make it a bit interactive?
Sure.
So we had a first session last month, and then I had shared a lot of tutorials, but also manuals over with everybody. So I was wondering from the 10 participants that we have today, if you had questions about it, or if there's something that we would really like to cover today, then I would want to give that a more priority. So we start with the Q&A beforehand.
Sure. Anyone, if you have a specific need with the Hable unit that you're specifically trying to learn, please share your thoughts now. Feel free to unmute.
Yes, hi, this is Tiffany. I had a bit of a dilemma yesterday. I used the Hable connected to my phone in the Notes app, and when I was writing numbers, it was vibrating as it should, but then it kind of stopped, and I turned it off and turned it back on, but it still wasn't working. And then when I went to the note like I normally do, there was nothing in it. And when I charged it, when I plugged it in to charge it, it had 3 vibrations. So I wasn't sure exactly if that's never happened before. So I didn't know if you had any experience with that or have any thoughts about why that may have happened. I know there's so many factors that could have impacted that. Thank you.
Hi, Tiffany. Thanks for your question. Yeah, maybe it's also an idea to help you out over email. But top of my mind, what I could think about, but I'm just curious, is the unit working now?
Yes.
Okay, so it could be the battery then, or could have been the battery, but if this happens again, perhaps I could help you resolve it over email.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Then Tiffany had another question. Were you able to showcase the unit to anybody yet? Did you find an opportunity to do that?
Not as of yet, but that will happen very soon.
Okay.
Actually, I did show it to someone briefly, who actually was sighted, and they were really amazed that I could, use my phone that way without touching my phone. So yes, I did show it briefly.
And then I'm just curious, do you think you find an opportunity to show the device online, or is it through offline events?
I think both, definitely both.
Okay. Because I guess when you're doing it online, it becomes a bit of a challenge to tell somebody about it without having the unit in their hands.
I think it could still be described fairly well. Just describing the layout, describing what it's capable of, and describing how I've used it and how it can be used.
Yeah. Yeah. And if then somebody's interested, they could try it out after that, once they've understood what it is.
Yes.
Okay, I'm wondering if anybody else has a question or a doubt about the Hable.
Ayushman, this is Jane.
Hi,
And
Jane.
hi. I just have a comment, and I'd like to kind of piggyback on what Tiffany is saying and make a suggestion as well. National Federation of the Blind has a Maryland chapter conference coming up. February, I believe it's the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And there will be a day of showcasing devices on Friday. I think it's the 15th. Tiffany, I'm hoping that maybe we can get you there and bring the Hable, and then you can showcase how that's used at that time.
I will be there. I will definitely be there, and I believe I know which event you're referring to.
Great. Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we don't have any more questions if you want to get started, Ayushman.
Okay. And just for me, Vishnu, so a lot of participants have the Hable with them, but the opportunity to showcase the Hable probably has not happened for everybody, right?
I think
Yeah,
Jane,
that's
you
correct.
best-
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so that is something we prepare for in the future. So the idea is that perhaps everyone first is able to identify who the Hable could be for, and then are able to guide them in the right direction. Okay. So there's something that I wanted to pick up from the last call that we had. Last time we had just introduced the Hable from my point of view, and then I believe a lot of the participants already played around with the Hable before, which was great actually, because you already have a kickstart. We made sure that everybody has the latest manuals and the tutorials on YouTube, so that they come handy when you're further explaining to somebody how the device works, or further somebody's troubleshooting on a certain issue that they have. There were a few things I wanted to mention again, and which were that the Hable is designed for two needs. One of them were for people with low vision or blindness, and they would like to use the phone for typing or for just navigating on the phone. So all the talkback or voiceover functions, they would like to do it without using the screen. This also means there's a group which uses the phone only in one way, which is they use it as a not to interact with somebody, but to get information. So they're not avid writers or typers on Messenger or WhatsApp or Facebook or internet, but they would like to get information. So they would like to get their daily news, or they would like to listen to Spotify. These users might be a bit in the age group of 45 to 65. And for them, the typing aspect of the Braille is not so important. They actually wouldn't want to use it that way. Their means of usage is very simple. So recently, for example, iPhone users have this option where the whole layout of the phone becomes a simple version or a simple set of layout, which makes it easier for this particular group to find the icons. So for this group, we've made a separate version of the Hable called the Hable Easy. And in the Hable Easy version, the users do not need to know all the commands. And what it boils down to is maybe maximum perhaps 8 commands that they need to do to use their phone, which are enough and sufficient to use all the apps with just those 8 commands. So the Hable Easy mode is not a separate device. It is a mode that is built into the Hable itself, and it can be toggled or switched on or off from the Hable settings menu. So once you switch on those settings, it maps the Hable into a new configuration in which out of not the whole 250 commands or 280 commands, but only 8 commands are available for the user. These then once the Hable is in the Hable Easy mode, it is not necessary for somebody to use the Hable with both hands as well. So that also means that the Hable is accessible for somebody who has challenges with the motor impairments, or they have dexterity in one hand. That also means that it's more accommodating to the needs of wheelchair users, for example. And then it could be, you could compare it as a switch access device. So in the iPhone settings, the Hable can pair with a switch control, and it can also pair with a full keyboard access mode. This means that the functionality of the Hable go beyond the usage of just being able to use it for voiceover, but we can use it for switch access or for full keyboard access. For the Hable Easy mode, you do not need to use the full keyboard access or the switch control. We have built those commands inside the Hable. So the voiceover functionality is sufficient, and we can just switch on the Hable Easy mode on the Hable. So this was a nice insight that I wanted to reiterate on from last time, in that the Hable, the understanding is that you're using a physical set of keys for interacting on the phone. And for that, the target audience might not be people like yourself who would like to type in Braille, or they do not know Braille. So there could also be users who are trying to learn Braille, but also users who just want to interact with the Hable for navigating on the apps. And that is sufficient for them. The manuals for those is something I could also share with everybody on email right after the call. And it's self-explanatory. It's very simplified because there are only 8 sets of commands, and it works the same as on Android and an iPhone. The 8 sets of commands that we have prioritized are going to the item next and going to the item back. So those are the 2 primary commands. Third one is opening an application and going back on an application. So 4 commands. Next is a home screen. So a lot of times users might not have been able to make a mental model of where in the app there are. They might get lost on that. So a home screen, a physical home button, is also useful for iPhones without a physical home button. So you have a home button on the Hable. Those are 5. And then there are some extra keys for multimedia, for example, a play pause button, or a magic control for picking up phone calls or dropping phone calls, a Siri, activating Siri to use different functionality of the weather app, for example, or searching the browser. So those are multimedia key activities that are there. for interacting with phone calls or with media. So like it's not necessary for everybody to use those 8 commands, but for those who need the basic functions, there is an option in the Hable to do that. And in the Android, instead of Siri, we have Google Talk, Google Now, which works very similar as compared to Siri. So I was wondering if after this piece of information, are there questions or are there things that you would like to mention or talk about the Hable Easy or using the Hable with switch access or with full keyboard access?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you're using the easy mode with the one-handed modes, when letters or numbers are input, they just input them one dot at a time?
So
if
with
they're
a
using one hand?
with a Hable Easy mode, it does not have the feature of writing Braille with one hand.
Okay, okay.
Perhaps, yeah, we did do research into that as to if we would want to make that available. We did not find a big target group that could test it for us. So we are still in the development process, but we didn't really make a pipeline for having the Braille option in Hable Easy. So Hable Easy mode is only for navigation purposes. So using the talkback or the voiceover.
Okay, thank you.
Are there more people with a question? I'll just give it a minute and then I can go to the next section. All right. The second announcement I had. So I know that for Braille users, the UEB is the version that most people prefer, but there is an audience which prefers AEB, which is the old standard for Braille, which is the American English Braille. So we just want to test it out if that is something that the community wants. And for those reasons, we have put the AEB mode in the Hable as well. There's a certain audience that grew up learning that mode. And for those users, we think it is nice to make it inclusive. It's a Braille, if it's a technology that's using Braille, then it should support a standard that a community uses. So we do have an option of switching the language inside the Hable in the settings from UEB to AEB. Although we strongly believe that UEB is the standard to move forward, and in the future, that's the one that we would want to reiterate and revise. But there is an option for AEB that users can use, also for users who are not familiar, for example, with UEB standards, and they would like to use an AEB. That was the second piece of information that I wanted to convey today. Somebody has a question on that aspect of AEB. All right. Then I want to move on to the last version. So last thing that I wanted to mention today. And this is rather an advanced feature on the Hable. So I believe a lot of users that are participating in the call today, they are the first ones to try it, and for a reason that you're the digital navigators. And it could be that you come across users which are, we call it the super users, or users who are much advanced with technology, and they're very familiar with some advanced functions like a rotor function on the iPhone. in my experience, that's not a function that everybody is familiar with it, but it's something after 5 or 10 years of using a phone, people get used to it and they would use it more often. So rotor function is very useful when you're browsing the internet and you would like to go by headings or by links. You want to scroll the web pages quicker or documents quicker. Rotor function also gives you an option, a possibility to go to next word or a next character or select a next word and character. It also has some other settings, for example, changing the verbosity or the speaking rate and many other functions. So what we did was we made that interaction of trying to make a knob function on the screen, which is using 2 fingers, the thumb and the finger, which is sometimes a bit complicated for some users, but also when you're using text editing, it could become very handy to have that on the Hable. We made that option possible on the Hable. So the key commands that you're looking for is the button 7, if you hold it, and then if you click on buttons 5 and 6, that would give you the options for the rotor. And that'll move in one way. And then if you want the rotor item, the functions, then you use the 7 and 6 key to access that. Now, this is particularly interesting to use when you're in text editing, for example, notes on iPhone, and you would like to, you've inputted a long piece of text, which requires correction or revision. And to revise it, you could also use the going to the next word, which is a shortcut on Hable. So that's 7 and 5. But you could also use the rotor function to go to the next character, to go back a character, next word, previous character, or a line or a sentence. And this is particularly useful because when you are in that area of text selection, you're able to correct it on the spot without having to delete the entire text again. You could also copy paste text. So there's a text selection tool as well. And that is built into the Hable. So with the holding down the 7 key and pressing dots 4 and 5 together, it'll lead you to select the text which is in front of the cursor. So that way, wherever your cursor is, you could select the text and then you can copy it with a shortcut C and then paste it in the other app with a shortcut V, which are very similar commands to a standard keyboard. So this is an advanced function of text editing and using the full functionality of the phone to be able to do most of the things with the phone without having to switch between devices. And this also enables a lot of users to proofread text or emails for professional use, or while you're posting it on socials or sending it to friends and family. And this has a very similar experience or functionality on the Android. So for those of you who are using the Android, and maybe it would be nice to ask, I'm just curious, is there anybody in the group who uses the Hable with an Android, or they own an Android phone?
This is Jane Ayushman. So we have several devices. We do have the Google Pixel 6a and also the Smart Vision 3. And then the blind shell, but the Smart Vision 3 and the Google Pixel would be the Androids of the devices that we're using.
Okay, that's great to know, because on the Google Pixel, those are the phone, and the Samsung phones are the ones that we test quite rigorously to make sure all the functions work. On the Google Pixel, for example, there's a function called reading lines, which is very similar to the rotor function, and the reading lines also gives you access on the Android, the similar way of selecting words or sentences, and that could be useful for the Android users to perform the same functionality of interacting with text. So that was something I wanted to cover today, was to kind of show, we just stepped on the basic elements in the last call, and today I wanted to cover, maybe since it's the last call, but I'm open to questions or making another call if necessary to cover the extent to what the Hable could do. And this is usually comes in handy when somebody is a pro text, or they would like to have all the functions on the phone without having to touch the screen or perform complicated functions. So that was actually what I had in mind today to talk about or to cover. But if there are more questions during the call today or email, I'm happy to take them and answer them. Yeah.
I have a question.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, I love the device, by the way. I take it everywhere. It's great to know that I can use it whenever I need it. I'm learning more and more about it, and I'm gonna just do a deep dive soon. I wanted to know, is there a way to lock the device or something? Because when you have it in a bag, the button can accidentally get bumped, or is there a case or something that you can that you have for it?
I think that's a great question because this is something like a use case we thought about. And the Hable has a function in which the second time you pair with the phone, you do not need to reconnect it through the Bluetooth settings. So the first time, whichever device you connect to, or the last device you pair it with, rather, if you switch off the Hable with the slider function, and if you turn it on, it automatically pairs to the device that you're connected to. So in case when you're not using the device, we would recommend to switch it off. It also saves power, but whenever you want to use it, you can switch it on. The second part to the question is we do not provide a case together with the Hable, but we could recommend a lot of cases from Amazon, which would be much better option than us providing a device, a case that you could use with the Hable as well.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question from somebody. I don't see the name, but
Yeah, it's
Hi.
Erica Tinsley. I'm on my iPad, sorry. So I was wondering more about using the Able with other devices like iPads for children or students, like younger users. Do you have any tips for maybe teaching those, or when the device would be more a benefit, to teach those that demographic, like younger users?
Help me understand the demographic a bit better. So the students, are they, they're in the primary school and they
Yes.
are, what are their accessibility needs?
If they're visually impaired and they're using it for academic purposes, like to access, like you said, emails and other things for class, a lot of them are using Google Classroom or using other learning management platforms. Some of them do use the iPad to email things to their teachers or to access Google Docs. So do you have any input on how that would be of benefit to them? I have ideas, but I want to see from, you all, the brainchild of the product.
So I have a couple of ideas just to brainstorm out here. I've seen some use cases here in the Netherlands and in UK, and those are around. I know that kids are very fast in learning by themselves and exploring different features, and a lot of times they would just try out new things and learn new things. So they relatively require less input from us. So there were two use cases that we saw quite being useful. One was the being able to learn the Braille alphabet or practice Braille alphabet. I think compared to a traditional Braille device, using it on the iPhone is much more, I don't know, updated version of it. So they do have the other apps with it, but also the responsiveness of the screen or the iPad speaking out every alphabet makes it more interactive. The Hable also is like a game controller for a lot of people. So just being able to use it in that fashion creates more engagement when you're practicing Braille, which is quite useful for academics. So that was one use case that we saw. The second was, being able to just use the different functions of the iPads, because the iPad works very similarly to the iPhone when we put down the functions, or there are some voiceover functions in it. So that was another case where if they know those commands, these are very similar commands that go into their Braille devices as well, of the first function on the screen or the last function on the screen, or using some quick nav. So these are very standard functions that they could get familiar with, which are quite useful in their entire life whenever they are interacting with the iPhone, either without a Hable as well, because they're able to kind of investigate or find new features. That's something I could think about, or I've seen a lot of teachers use. I was wondering, did you have other ideas that I could learn from, maybe?
I think that's the part that I'm going to explore more. So I was just trying to see before I take the device out, because if I'm not mistaken, Jane and Vishnu, families are available, like younger children are available to take advantage of this program, right? It's not an age cap when it comes
Eric,
to.
yeah, Erica, this is Jane. That's absolutely correct. Anyone 3 years and up is eligible for this program, provided that their family meets the 400% poverty level income cap. The other thing that was popping to mind to me is using the Hable with a lanyard style device called a slinger. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But that would be it's kind of like would stick on the back of the Hable, would stick onto a square, and then it could be worn around the neck. And that might be handy for anyone, children or adults, just to keep it at a good location and keep track of it.
I like that idea too. And again, because of the age, there's no age cap other than the like below 3 years old, which we wouldn't, put that much power in a child's hand like that. Outside of an iPad, of course, that's monitored, but when they go into the educational setting, it's good for them to have, a device like the Hable to access their work. Like I said, a lot of kids are expected to do more on the computer nowadays, especially in the county that I'm in. They're deploying more learning management systems for them to complete activities in. So therefore, they do need something portable. So if they do receive a phone, or like I said, the iPad that pretty much mirrors an iPhone, as long as they learn the basic skills, they can transfer the skills between the two devices. So I'm definitely going to try it with some students. I was just trying to, put that out there to see if you had any, like you said, the use case experiences. That's helpful to know. Jane sharing the lanyard would be great for portability. So I'm just, looking at other ways that I can incorporate it throughout their school day and at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they can get an iPad through our program, or, a cell phone, and the accessories as well. So please keep that in mind.
Okay, I wasn't aware of the iPad, so that's great to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what do you say, Vishnu or Jane? If nobody else has a question, we round up the session today. And of course, I'm available for answering questions over email or brainstorming, like the one we did right now. Like if if others have similar or different ways that they would want to think about incorporating devices or educating people about different technologies, happy to brainstorm.
Ayushman, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I want to follow up after this with you regarding using the Hable as a switch and how
Okay.
that operates more with the keyboard and so forth. That would be great. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Yeah, anybody else? Any other questions before we close it for today? I guess that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your input.
All
It's
right.
been a pleasure.
I'll end the
And
recording here, Jane, if that's okay.
I'm sorry,
Thanks
with
everyone for your time. Really appreciate it, and hope to interact with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
yes, thank you.